The Mazda Miata is the best-selling roadster of all time. So, with the latest version behind me, keep up that tradition? Let's find out. Well, it might have changed slightly over the years, but it still is a great-looking two-seat roadster convertible. And it's definitely still smiling after 25 years. It's been a great shape from the start, so really they've just gradually updated as time has gone by. This latest version looks really nice, modern, fresh, and still very sporty. It definitely has quintessential sports car looks, top up, or down, which only takes about 12 seconds. Its sporting nature is also carried over to the interior. The seats are leather, along with a lot of the interior items, but there's also some faux leather thrown in just for the look. They're actually manually operated to save on weight. I'm definitely a fan of the two-tone look and the dual hoop roll bars too. The console kind of serves as a low armrest. You can slide this compartment open to reveal two cup holders and some skinny storage here with a real handbrake. Moving forward, you have controls for the power windows and the 6-speed shifter. Very short, snicky throws. That's something the Miata is famous for. Excellent. You get 5 different settings for the heated seats. Great to keep you warm when the top's down in cold weather. Straightforward ventilation and heating controls also. You got a charger and an aux-in over here. You can hook up your smarter iPhone, but I'd like to have a USB in addition. No large infotainment screen with navigation and backup camera here, but at least you do get a great sounding Bose sound system with Sirius satellite radio. The steering wheel feels great in your hand, as any sports car steering wheel should. You got the bold Mazda logo there. Zoom, zoom. And controls for your radio on the left and cruise control on the right. The gauges are minimalistic, just as you'd expect in a sports car. Big tachometer and speedometer. You do get oil pressure, also temperature, and of course a fuel gauge. You also get lockable storage back here, which is nice to have. A wind buffer here, and a bit of storage in the door too, along with controls for the locks. And an additional cup holder as well in the door, which is a good place to store your phone. All in all, it's a simple, sporty, minimalistic interior that you'd expect from a serious sports car. Thankfully, the storage is not affected whether you have the top up or down. That's not to say you get a huge trunk, but it is enough to go on a nice long weekend trip. With the top down, hopefully. Power comes from a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine that, when mated to a manual transmission, produces 167 horsepower at 7,000 RPM and 140 pound-feet of torque at 5,000 RPMs. 0 to 60 takes 6.9 seconds. If you opt for the automatic transmission, you only get 158 horsepower. Fuel economy is rated at 21 miles per gallon in the city and 28 miles per gallon on the highway. You can expect 24 miles per gallon overall. But if you go for the 5-speed manually equipped Miata with the soft top, then you'll get 22 miles per gallon in the city and you'll average 25 miles per gallon overall. Pricing for the 2015 Miata starts out at just under $24,000 and goes up to $32,655. Now that's for the 25th anniversary edition, which is very well equipped. I'm driving the Grand Touring version, which comes in at $29,450, but with a suspension package with limited slip differential and the premium package that features keyless entry, Bluetooth, xenon headlights, and Sirius satellite radio, you're out the dealer door at $32,935, including destination. But that's on par with basically anything else you can get for the money. There's not too much out there in terms of two-door, convertible, sport roadsters. The Scion FRS is a good comparison. You can look for my review of that one, but it doesn't come in a convertible. This one, to me, is the best of both worlds. It has a hard retractable convertible top. That means you can use it as a hard top when the weather's bad and just pop the top down in just about 12 seconds. And that's like the quickest in the industry as well. Very simple, very easy to use. That way you can experience al fresco motoring with the top down. So the Mazda Miata is celebrated throughout the world for being a really nice handling convertible sports car. Really, there's nothing else that comes close, and there hasn't been anything else that comes close for the last 25 years. When I first saw the Miata back in 1989, a neighbor of mine got it, and man, it was just the car to have. Everybody wanted one, and it just gave a new level of reliability to a sports car. You know, people were used to taking their MGs or their Triumphs or their Austin Healey's or their Lotuses or even their Ferraris or Lamborghinis if they had money, and they would be driving them on the weekend and working on them all week because they weren't as reliable as the Miata. The Miata basically took body of the mid-60s Lotus Elan. If you look at that one, you'll see it's dead ringer for the first generation Miata, certainly, and there's still a resemblance to this day. But it basically took all the charm of British and Italian convertible sports cars and put them in a package that's reliable, but also still had all of the fun and charm of those cars. You can pop the top down, you can really feel the road. This car is celebrated also because it has perfect 50-50 weight distribution. It's a very balanced sports car. What does that mean? Well, that means when you're going around a turn, you can actually steer this car with a throttle. Give it a little more gas and the back end comes around and you make the turn a little quicker. Lay off a bit and it's a little slower. Understeer. But it's perfectly balanced between understeer and oversteer, which basically means all four wheels give way at the same time, but mainly you can feel it. Just like in a go-kart, when the back end loses traction, when the front end loses traction, you know exactly what's going on. And with the communicative steering, well, you can take care of it, be it understeer or oversteer, and the feel of the shifter is just a very short throw, sneaky shifter. Just feels great. And then when you have the top down as an added element with all the beauty of nature and your favorite backcountry road right there for you to see and smell, instead of the oil and grease and those things that you used to smell in those classic British and Italian sports cars, well, it just really, really emphasizes and hones in on the fact that the Miata is excellent, excellent sports car. It's everything a sports car should be. It's just as pure and just as enjoyable as those classic Italian and British sports cars, but it's also extremely reliable and even economical too. Checking out the night look on the Miata, and you can see that, well, it's a heck of a lot of red. Viewers of mine will know I'm not a big fan of that, but at least you can see it well. I like the view over the bonnet of the Miata. You can see that hump, little bulge in the center. You can see the bulges over the wheels. It's definitely a sports car view, very nice. And this time of year you can see the beautiful trees, fall foliage lining the streets. And it's glorious to be driving a fine sports car. You know, I always say when I'm reviewing a Mazda that they all have a bit of zoom, whether you're talking about the Mazda 5, 6, 3, what have you. They've all got a bit of the zoom of the Miata in them, and that's because just like Lotus originally designed the Elan, which this is based on, their philosophy was to make the car as light as possible and put a competent engine in it. Not a huge engine for reliability and also for economical aspects. The less times you have to go in for a pit stop, well, the more you can be out on the track going fast. And so really, you can feel the fact that Mazda, much like Lotus in the past, and still in the present with models like the Elise and the Evora, which I've previously tested, believe that not just sports cars, but all cars should be as light as possible, because the lighter they are, the more economical they are, the faster they are, and the better they perform. Now this is really what the Miata is all about. Dropping the top, in this case the hard retractable top, and it's really just a joy to drive. The leaves are changing, the top's down, but the heated seats, they're keeping you warm. The Bose sound system is keeping you entertained. Of course it gets very loud because you got to overpower the wind noise, and it's really a great car because you can carry on a conversation with the top down, and you can also hear that great engine as you're winding your way down your favorite twisty road. That's what the Miata is all about. It's got just enough speed to have fun with, but not so much to get you in trouble. I think that's really the appeal of the Miata. Sure, you can spend 10 times the money on something else, maybe even a 2-seat convertible, Lamborghini perhaps, maybe a Ferrari, but for the common person, it's much easier to get the Miata to its limits and to really dance with it, get it sideways, have fun with it. And a good sports car should let you do that. It should let you test its limits and still be able to come back from them. The higher horsepower cars can be quite tricky and quite dangerous. You really have to reach very high speeds, get them sideways in many cases, and there's a lot more horsepower that you're playing with, but it's pretty easy to kick the tail out in the Miata, have fun with it, slide it through your favorite turns, but it really has just the exact right amount of power. You've got to be a pretty bad driver to lose control of Miata, especially with the traction control on. Of course, I had it off a little bit and was having fun with it, but only do that if you really know what you're doing. Drivin Ivan does not recommend it. Now, a lot has changed since 1989. When the Miata first came out, it weighed 2,160 pounds and was just 155.4 inches long. Now in 2014, well, it's just about 3 inches longer at 158.3 inches, and it weighs 2,579 pounds. That's over 400 pounds more. So really, because of current safety standards and the trend towards bigger and bigger cars, well, the Miata has actually grown a bit. So perhaps the first generation might have been a more pure sports car, but what we have here in the most modern Miata is still a very light sports car by today's standards. Most cars are well over 3,000 pounds, perhaps 3,500, even 4,000 pounds or more. So the Miata is still a very sprightly and very docile sports car. It's chuckable. You can throw it around and it'll do exactly what you want it to do. It still feels as light and nimble as anything else out on the road. It's just a real joy to drive. An excellent sports car. It's so good, in fact, that I'm definitely not surprised that it's the best-selling roadster in the world. It's just got all the elements of a classic sports car, yet it's extremely modern, well equipped, and it's also practical and extremely reliable too, and I think it's a bit of a bargain. I'm extraordinarily impressed, and I know you will be too. I'm Drivin Ivan Katz.